April 18, 1942. Aboard the USS Hornet, somewhere in the Pacific, 650 miles from Japan. The sea is raging, the deck is slick with salt and fear. And on that steel runway sit 16 bombers, too big, too heavy, never meant to take off from a carrier. Yet today, they must. Their commander, Lieutenant Colonel James Doolittle, knows the odds. They have just enough fuel to reach Japan, and not enough to come back. Sound of engines rising, men shouting. As the first B-25 thunders down the deck, 467 feet to prove the impossible. No one on that ship knows if this mission will live in glory or vanish beneath the waves. But what these 16 planes are about to do will shatter Japan's illusion of safety, ignite America's spirit, and set in motion the turning point of the entire Pacific War. April 18, 1942, the Pacific Ocean, aboard the USS Hornet, 650 miles east of Japan. The sea is rough, the sky gray and low with mist. Waves slam against the steel hull of the carrier as cold spray sweeps across the flight deck. On the horizon, the faint outline of escorting cruisers and destroyers cut through the swells, silent, tense shadows in the dawn light. On the deck, 16 twin-engine bombers sit like giants among dwarfs. They are B-25 Mitchells, medium bombers, never meant for carrier takeoff, and certainly not from a deck this short. Their wings stretch dangerously close to one another, their propellers already spinning up with a low, throaty growl. Lieutenant Colonel James "Jimmy" Doolittle stands near the edge of the deck, goggles down, wind whipping his flight jacket. He knows every pilot has just enough fuel to reach Japan and maybe, just maybe, enough to crash land in China afterward. No one expects to come back. Below decks, sailors whisper about the odds. The Hornet was never meant to carry bombers. These planes are massive, twice the size of a torpedo bomber, and the deck length is barely enough to get them airborne. But the mission must go on. At 7:38 a.m., a lookout spots a Japanese picket ship on the horizon. Alarms blare. The ship is destroyed within minutes, but Doolittle knows what that means. Japan now knows an American carrier is somewhere out here. There's no more time. They'll have to launch now, hundreds of miles earlier than planned. The crew scrambles into position. Engines roar as deck officers guide the first bomber forward, the salt air thick with exhaust and tension. The ship pitches in the waves, the deck tilting upward and down again like a living thing. Doolittle climbs into the cockpit of plane number 42344. His co-pilot, Lieutenant Richard Cole, gives a final thumbs up. The B-25 lurches forward as the throttles open full. Wind screams across the nose. The engines strain, propellers blurring into silver discs. There's only 467 feet of deck ahead. No catapult, no margin for error. The bomber surges forward, wheels pounding, deck rising beneath it, ocean spray exploding over the bow. For a moment, it seems impossible. The ship dips into a swell, the end of the deck vanishing. Then, with a groan of effort, the B-25 lifts, barely clearing the waves by inches, skimming low before clawing its way into the air. Cheers erupt across the deck. Sailors shout and pump their fists, the roar of engines echoing across the sea. One by one, 15 more bombers thunder down the deck and disappear into the fog, each carrying 2,000 pounds of explosives and a crew of 5. 16 bombers, 16 miracles of flight, head west into enemy skis. No radio contact, no return plan, just the hum of engines, the compass needle pointing straight toward Tokyo. Hours later, as the Japanese coastline comes into view, the clouds break and the city below glints in the morning sun. Chimneys, rail lines, and factory roofs fill the horizon. The bomb bay doors open. Japan has never been bombed before. That's about to change. Fire over Tokyo. April 18, 1942. Tokyo, Japan, late morning. The streets hum with the rhythm of an ordinary day. Streetcars rattle past shops where merchants arrange goods in neat rows. Office clerks shuffle papers under the hum of ceiling fans. Housewives hang laundry on narrow balconies. And then, a distant rumble. At first it sounds like thunder, then growing closer, like the growl of 1,000 wasps. Heads turn skyward, shiny dots glint through the thin clouds. No air raid sirens sound. The Japanese capital has never been attacked. Most believe it never could be. But the shapes grow larger, twin-tailed aircraft with broad, foreign wings. The silver fuselages glint in the sun. A moment later, the first bombs fall. Explosions tear through factory districts near Tokyo Bay. Flames erupt from oil depots, warehouses, and power stations. Shock waves rattle windows miles away. Black smoke billows upward, curling into the spring sky. Inside his bomber, LT Col Jimmy Doolittle stares down through the cockpit glass as the payloads drop clean and true. He's not targeting civilians. His crew has strict orders: hit industrial and military facilities only. But he knows, even now, some bombs will go astray. War does not always obey precision. As the B-25 banks hard over the city, anti-aircraft batteries open fire. The sky fills with black puffs and orange flashes. Tracers streak upward, chasing the bombers as they roar westward. One gunner, crouched behind his .50 caliber, fires bursts at pursuing Japanese fighters. The enemy pilots can hardly believe what they're seeing: American bombers over Tokyo. It should be impossible. The nearest Allied airbase is thousands of miles away. Down below, Japanese civilians run through the streets, shielding their children from falling debris. The fires begin to spread, carried by the wind across rooftops. Somewhere in the chaos, a civil defense warden yells into a hand-cranked siren, too late. From Tokyo to Yokohama, Nagoya, and Kobe, explosions echo. Not all the bombs hit their mark, but that hardly matters. The psychological damage is already done. In the Imperial Palace complex, shockwaves rattle paper walls. Officers burst into the war room, faces pale. Reports come in from the Army, the Navy, the Home Ministry, all confirming the same unthinkable fact: American aircraft have struck the Japanese homeland. The High Command is furious and terrified. The attack has no precedent. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, architect of Pearl Harbor, receives word aboard his flagship, the Yamato. His jaw tightens. He knows instantly what this means. If the Americans can reach Tokyo, even once, they can do it again. The illusion of invincibility, the shield that had protected Japan's home islands, has been shattered in a single morning. Meanwhile, Doolittle's bombers, low on fuel, turn southwest toward the uncertain safety of China. Rain and darkness begin to close in. None of the planes will reach their planned landing fields. Most will crash or be abandoned. But for now, they keep flying, every last drop of fuel spent in the name of proving the impossible. Behind them, Tokyo burns, and with it, Japan's confidence. April 18, 1942, over the East China Sea. The sun sinks behind a bank of gray clouds as the bombers push west, engines coughing on fumes. Rain streaks across the windshields. The compass needles tremble. Below them, endless ocean. Above, only darkness. Doolittle checks his gauges. The fuel needle hovers near empty. He looks to his co-pilot, Richard Cole. Both men know what comes next. "We've done our job," Doolittle mutters through the intercom, his voice steady despite the storm. "Now we just need to survive the night." One by one, the 16 crews fight the weather, navigating by dead reckoning. No radio, no beacons, no idea if their Chinese landing fields are still intact. The strong headwinds from the Pacific have burned through their precious reserves. Even with engines throttled back, it's not enough. Hours later, over the dark mountains of eastern China, the first bomber runs out of fuel. The engines sputter, then die. The aircraft dips, skimming treetops before the crew bails out into the black void. Parachutes bloom like pale ghosts against the storm clouds. Doolittle's own plane follows soon after. At 9,000 feet, he orders his men to jump. The crew vanishes into the mist one by one. Then, alone, he steps into the freezing wind. For a few seconds, there's nothing but silence and rain. Then, impact. He crashes hard into a patch of bamboo, rolling down a muddy slope. Bruised, soaked, but alive. Somewhere in the darkness, he hears voices, Chinese farmers shouting, dogs barking. The air smells of wet earth and smoke. Across hundreds of miles, other crews land or crash in similar chaos. Some are rescued by Chinese villagers who risk their lives to hide the Americans from Japanese patrols. Others are not so lucky. 8 men are captured by Japanese forces. 3 will be executed. 1 dies in captivity. Doolittle, unaware of their fate, assumes the worst. In his mind, the raid is a failure. He's lost all 16 planes, several crewmen, and caused limited physical damage to Tokyo. When Chinese guerrillas finally bring him to safety, he confides to a fellow officer, "I thought I'd let everyone down." But in Washington, the news spreads like wildfire. Headlines declare Tokyo bombed, Doolittle's raiders strike back. The American public, still reeling from Pearl Harbor, erupts in celebration. The impossible has been done. And in Japan, the reaction is the opposite. The government censors the story, but whispers spread through the population. American bombers had reached Tokyo. The emperor's palace had been nearly hit. If even the heart of the empire could be touched, what else was vulnerable? Admiral Yamamoto reads the reports with growing unease. He knows this is more than a raid, it's a message. The Americans are rebuilding, and fast. He gathers his staff aboard the Yamato, staring at the maps spread across the chart table. "We must draw them out," he says quietly. "We must destroy their carriers before they strike again." His eyes fall on a small atoll in the Central Pacific, a place called Midway. June 4, 1942, Midway Atoll, Central Pacific. The dawn is calm, the sea a sheet of silver beneath the rising sun. Japanese carrier planes, hundreds of them, roar eastward toward a tiny ring of coral and sand known as Midway. Below, waves crash softly against the reef. It looks peaceful, but the next few hours will shatter that illusion. Aboard the flagship Akagi, Admiral Chuichi Nagumo stands on the bridge, confident. His 4 carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Huryu, form the backbone of Japan's striking power. Their decks hum with activity, rows of bombers armed and ready. The Americans, Nagumo believes, are nowhere near. But far beyond the horizon, waiting in silence, are 3 U.S. carriers, Enterprise, Hornet, and Yorktown, the same Hornet that launched Doolittle's bombers less than 2 months before. Hidden in the morning haze, the Americans wait. They know what Yamamoto doesn't. Thanks to broken Japanese codes, Admiral Chester Nimitz already knows the attack plan. At 10:22 a.m., fate turns. American dive bombers from Enterprise and Yorktown appear out of the sun, plunging steeply toward the Japanese fleet. The sky fills with the wail of engines and tracer fire. Below, Japanese decks are chaos, planes being refueled, bombs stacked in rows, flight crews caught mid-rearmament for a second strike. The first bombs hit Kaga. A massive fireball erupts, swallowing the deck in orange flame. Moments later, Akagi and Soryu are struck in rapid succession. The explosions tear through the ships, igniting aviation fuel and ammunition. Within minutes, 3 of Japan's prized carriers are burning wrecks. On the Akagi's bridge, Nagumo stares at the inferno spreading below. Officers scramble to issue orders, but it's too late. The fire races unchecked, consuming everything in its path. The ocean boils with black smoke. Only Huryu survives long enough to launch a desperate counterattack, damaging Yorktown. But by the end of the day, she too is found and sunk. By nightfall, the sea is littered with oil, debris, and the wreckage of Japan's naval air arm. Over 3,000 sailors and aviators are dead. The Imperial Navy's momentum, unstoppable since Pearl Harbor, is gone forever. Aboard the battleship Yamato, Admiral Yamamoto receives the news in silence. He stares at the telegram for a long time, then folds it carefully. Around him, the command room is still. Officers avert their eyes. He had ordered the Midway operation in direct response to Doolittle's raid, hoping to crush America's carriers before they could ever threaten Japan again. Instead, those very carriers have destroyed his fleet. In that moment, Yamamoto understands what the Doolittle Raid truly accomplished. It wasn't the few fires lit in Tokyo, it was the fear it planted in the hearts of Japan's leaders, a fear that led them straight into a trap. The impossible bombers had done more than strike the homeland. They had set in motion the turning point of the entire Pacific War. Months earlier, 16 men had flown into the unknown, believing they might never return. Their mission, thought symbolic, had changed everything. And now, as the fires of Midway fade into the Pacific night, the balance of power shifts for good. Japan would never again be on the offensive.